Good morning.
Morning.
Let's see. Okay, we're holding on Tzadik Zion. It's 97B. Right after the coins, the coins of Avraham Avinu, the coins of Yerushalayim. Rab Taboimine, Rabba Mirachis.
Good morning. Is Shalom there?
Shalom's here, yeah. Shalom.
Let me just say hi.
Shalom, your father wants to say hi. He's reading.
Sorry.
Moshe, you're going to be in Phoenix on Tuesday? Yeah.
Oh, there he is. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so we're holding by Baimine Rabamir of Chizda. That's 97B. Tzadik Zion on the base. Thank Hashem that you're able to learn Torah every day. The skits of our learning, which have the base of English. And we're learning in memory of Shalom, what's the name? Hava Golda, Bas Baruch Binyamin. And for Shlema for everyone that needs for Shlema. Father. Okay. Right. Rabbi asked Rav Chizda a question. You know, Rav is the son-in-law of Rav Chizda. He learned by Rav Chizda. His daughter, Rav Chizda, asked his daughter which one of the students would you like to marry? She said both of them.
Oh.
So Rabbi said, "I'll go second." It was him and Rami Bar Chama. Okay. So it says like this. Question goes, Hamal bes chaver al matbeya v'sifro of mal. Thank you. If someone lends money and he makes up that you're going to pay me back a certain coin, that coin, when it comes time for payment, is already larger than the coin when they made up. So there's a question over here of interest. He's going to pay more than what he borrowed, and that's a problem of ribis. So Amar Lai, Rav Chizda responded, doesn't matter. You pay the coin that he made up. Let's say they made up, you're going to pay $1. And then it turns out that the dollar coin was a larger coin than my son. It doesn't matter. You pay the payment that they made up. Let's say it got so large that it's the size of a, how do they translate that? A sieve or something? A sifter or sieve. Amalayan, he says, yeah, it doesn't matter. You have to pay the coin that they made up that he was going to pay back. Even if it's the size of a how they translate an afya? Yeah, they say from now on those coins are slightly larger. Like pennies used to be smaller.
Inflation
I think so.
They're thinner, maybe.
Thinner. They used to be thinner.
Cheaper metal. Less
So if the coins get bigger,
The dollar coin.
That means value, because it's the material back then.
Right.
Based off
Right. There's 2 points to it. We're going to see in a moment. There's 2 points. It's not just the value of the silver. That's also a point, but it's not only that. The coin is the coin. If you melt it down, you can get the material from it. So, I mean, The dollar coins, there's two sizes. They have like these little dollar coins, and then they have like the bigger silver dollars, right? And the half dollar coins, I think, also have different sizes. Maybe not. Okay. Amalia, I feel kitartia, even if it's the size of a kav or a quarter of a kav. Tartia is a quarter of a kav. Amalayan says, yeah, doesn't matter. He says, because Zylan Peri. He says, how is that possible? The fruits are cheaper, which basically means there's more buying power. You can buy more fruits with this larger coin. Obviously, that's interest. Ravashi says, Chazina, nimach mas tivazil, menakanle, nimach mas tarazil, menakanle. This becomes complex because it could be that it's because the currency is now a little larger. So that's why you're able to buy more. It also could be you're able to buy more because the fruits actually got cheaper because it rained a lot this year. So you have to look into that. You know, there's also the market price. We're on top of Tzadik Ches. It says, Shavach leni nasa. So this is Yonatan's comment. It says, but what about the coin itself? If you would try to melt it down to get coin silver, make something out of that, or turn it into a bar of silver, you would have extra silver. That itself is interest. Forget about the buying power. Ella Yadarav Papa Ravuna Beder Rav Yeshua Abdi of the Bezuzi the Agardimas Taya Adyud Bitamnaya. So tell me what your commentary says here. But basically, Rav Papa and Ravuna Beder Rav Yeshua, they would exchange money with this fellow Agardimas, the Arab merchant, and they would exchange 10 coins for 10 old coins for 8 new coins.
And old coins for 8.
Yeah. Now, I'm not sure what the Gemara means to say. Does the Gemara mean to say that if someone borrows money and he borrows 8 borrows 10 old coins, then the person should pay him back 8 new coins? Is that the Gemara's answer? Then it doesn't fit with Rav Chisda. Maybe what Rav Chisda is saying is that he borrowed it was less than 8. Maybe he borrowed
That's the first one. It says 10 old coins were equivalent in value to 8 new coins.
Right.
They paid 8 new coins in exchange for 10 old coins.
Yeah, but then does that mean that it's messing up Rav Chisda's answer?
Well,
Rav Chisda said that you don't need to. Go ahead. Tell me about this.
Rashi explains they discovered that the weight of 10 old coins was equal to that of 8 new coins, and they paid 8 new coins in place of 10 old coins that had been circulated.
So basically, Rav Chisda is not. We won't follow Rav Chisda. But it looks like the halacha is like Rav Chisda. Yeah, I'm stuck on this. I'm not sure exactly what that would be because the note for the Maseres Hashas for the Ein Mishpat is on Neisnei Matbei Yetzi Beis Hashah. You pay like Rav Chisda says. And now from the conclusion of the Gemara, where the Gemara looks like it's answering up. It's resolving the problem for Rav Chisda. But what about the there's more coins, there's more silver here, there's more material. The Gemara says, oh no, it's not a problem.
Well, sometimes a material can go down in value, like if you find demand.
That's interesting. Does the price of silver back then change, or was that consistent? That was consistent, silver. Yeah, so silver didn't change back then. So what changed? What is everything judged on today? Are you serious?
Yeah.
There's no standard of what everything is judged by.
No, we've been off the gold standard.
Yeah.
So how is there no interest problems whenever someone borrows money?
Right. So there was inflation in terms of what's the value of the dollar compared to what it was originally or to what it is today.
And when you say the
Dollars.
value of the dollar, what do you
The
mean?
dollar is
It's our
what you
belief.
think that
Our
there's a
belief, and And
The
how
gold.
much the dollar's worth. It's all based off what we believe the dollar is worth.
Soon we'll
You
go
know.
to the Chinese currency as the standard. So it's not gold, it's not silver. That's changing in value. You know, you bought gold a year ago, it's worth much more in terms of dollars.
So are we using gold?
No,
Not using gold. So are we using buying grain?
because
No,
that
it's not
changes in
based off
value too.
anything.
Using dollars. Dollars has
Yeah.
become the gold standard,
Uh-huh.
but that's changeable. Nothing
That's
is, because I
changeable,
could
but-
print it more, then, oh gee, you buy less grain with it. You buy a package of bubble gum for $1.
Sounds very confusing.
It is very mobile.
Uh-huh.
Like, it's what people do.
Okay. I'm a rabbi. So I don't have until an art scroll shows up over here. I don't have the what exactly the actually, you know what? Let me pull out this other thing.
They didn't have a gold standard. They didn't have a silver standard. The value of silver changes, it says.
Oh, back in the page for today.
But these coins, you have these coins. So it said 8
Oh,
coins
yeah,
equals 10 coins. Right. So there's a decrease in the value of the coin.
There's a Masifta here. Sadik has Aleph. See how the Gemara concludes. It answers over here, L'sikum, if the fruits are worth less,
Mhm.
which means you can buy more, that's because the coin is larger. Or if the coins are larger than a fifth, then you can't use the new money. Basically, what the way he's explaining this is that what we're doing is we're going by 1/5 more, then it becomes interest. Anything less than a fifth. So from 8 to 10, or from 10 old coins to 8 is 1/5 difference. So then that becomes a problem. But if it's less than that, then it's acceptable. That's interesting. So in interest, there's a negligible amount in the interest.
It's okay.
Yeah. Okay. I'm a rabbi.
It's a monthly interest in credit cards, 20%.
20% interest. Yeah, that's a high interest.
I have no interest.
Right? That is a high amount. Okay, I'm a rabbi. Mazerik matpeh shel chaver li yamagadol. Pater. This is a famous Gemara here. If someone takes his friend's coin, the Gemara is going to say he doesn't actually take it. But if he ends up throwing his friend's coin into the sea, he doesn't have to pay him for it. My time, what's the reason? Amar Hamanach Kamach. He says, go get it. It's right there. You see it on the bottom. You buy a shakli if you want to take it. But that would only apply if the waters are clear where you can see it. Avalakurin, but if it's murky, you can't see it like a chasi, then that halacha won't apply. That's only if he didn't actually take the coin. He just hit his hand. He was holding it in his hand. He hit the hand, but if he took it in his hand, mixal gasli, then he actually stole it. And ashava by mevad, and he would have to do turning. He took the coin. He has to give him back the coin. Otherwise, he can say, "I didn't really damage you. It's right there on the floor. Go get it."
Kind of reminds me of swishing bells where you throw a penny. But if you throw a penny and then take it again, you stole because you wish for a nickel.
Are you allowed to take money from those wishing wells? Who does it belong to? It belongs to Hashem. In the mall,
Yeah.
are you allowed to stick your hand in and take money out?
Not questions that.
Who wants to bother with loose change
Yeah,
anyway?
we'll take money from somebody else.
It's
No,
a
but
burden
whose
now.
is it?
Anyway,
The cleaning ladies. Massive Rava.
says the Great Sea, though. The Great Sea is Mediterranean, right?
Yeah.
How do you see it at the bottom of the sea? Is that
It must have been clear water. Massive Rab has a question. Ein Machala and Al Maisheni B'Shusei. This is talking about Ma'aser Sheni. You can't use money to redeem your Ma'aser Sheni, which you have to take to Yerushalayim. But if you redeem it, then you don't just take the money to Yerushalayim. But if the money's not in your possession, you can't use that. Ketzad Hayalei Ma'is Bekastra Bahar Melech, these distant places. I don't know where that is. Or if his coins fell into the Great Sea, you can't use it. You see, that's considered lost. Why are you saying that it's not considered lost? You can just point to it and say, there it is, go get it. You can't do that for Ma'aser Sheni. You can't say, well, there it is, go get it. I mean, it's considered that it doesn't exist. So why doesn't he have to pay for it? Amaraba Shanilin in Ma'aser Devin Masbiyadcha Derachman Amar V'tzarta Kesef Biyadcha Boleka. The truth is, when it comes to damages, it's not lost. It's only a special halacha by Ma'aser Sheni. They have to hold on to it. You have to be able to hold it in your hand. Plus, it says you wrap the money in your hand. Amar Rabba. Rabba also says a bunch of halachas here from Rabba. It says Hashaf matbeh shel chaveri is pater. If someone rubs out the image on the coin of his friend, he's exempt. My time. What's the reason? He didn't do anything. He didn't make him lose anything. It says v'hani mil demachi bekornes v'tar she'aval shayfa b'shufina chisrei chasrei. That's only if he banged it with a hammer and it took away the image. But if he shaved it with a file, then he actually removed some of the dust, and that he caused a loss. But if he banged it, it's all still there. Massive Rava has a question on this. Let's see, someone hits someone on the eye, he makes him blind. Alaznai on his ear, and he makes him deaf. Now, what we're seeing here is he's not making him lose anything. He's just like banging the coin. Everything is still there. So all the material is still there. But nevertheless, the slave goes free. This is not so relevant for us, but this is if he hits him near the eye and then he goes blind. Near the ear, he can't hear. Then the slave does not go free. So we have a question over here because it seems like even if there's no loss from the item, but it still is considered a loss. The slave only goes free with losing an eye or a tooth or any other limb, tips of the limbs, fingers or something. Now, or the ear. When it comes to the eye and the ear, if he loses his sight or his hearing, it's the same halacha as if he lost his eye. So the Gemara answers this problem by, is it considered a loss when nothing's really lost? The Gemara says, Rabba letamei, this follows Rabba's explanation. Rabba says, if someone makes his father deaf, he gets killed because someone injures his father. There's a death penalty there because it's impossible for there to be deafness without some sort of bruise. The tipsa, the dama, naflas leibune. There must be a drop of blood. Curse as well. Curse is one thing, and then also if he hits his father and there's no blood, then he doesn't get the death penalty. But if there's blood, then he does. So here there has to be somewhere in the ear, there has to be like a drop of blood that's released. And so that's what Rabbi is saying. So therefore, even though we're saying that there's no loss from the coin, but there is a loss by the ear. Yeah. Rabba has another statement. If someone slits the ear of his friend's cow, it's pater. My timer, what's the reason? The cow is still perfectly good. He didn't do anything. So the cow can still do everything that he used to do. Yeah, it can give milk. It can pull the thing. It can do everything that he used to do. Pull the plow.
But you can't sacrifice.
The only thing is, it can't be brought as a sacrifice. He says, the oxen or cows are not standing to be used as a sacrifice. So if you would know that it's a sacrifice, that would be an issue. Otherwise, doesn't seem to be a problem. He doesn't have to pay him. Massive Rava. Rava has a question on this. Someone does work with the water or the ashes of the paraduma. Not here it looks like the animal, or the water of the paraduma. The work that a person would do with the water of the paraduma is he uses it as a weight. He takes the puts it on the side of a balance, and he weighs it something corresponding to. So it's considered like work was done with it. So the rule is okay. So far, there's no problem. We're trying to ask a question on someone that makes a slit in an animal's ear, but the Gemara says that's only by malacha minker. He doesn't have to pay. When it comes to this animal, he did work with the either the animal or with the water of the red cow, right? Red heifer. So over there, you can't tell on the item that work was done with it. It's like a hezek sheina nicker. You can't recognize. If you look at it, you don't see any damage. Avol tzayrim, but let's say someone made a slit in the animal, the minkar zeka, over there it would be recognizable. Then it would be chayav. So the implication of that case is that he's only exempt because he did work which is not recognizable. But if he would have done something that is recognizable, he should be chayav. Any noticeable damage. So why isn't he chayav when he slits the animal's ear? The Amri, they explain like this: Who adin? The truth is that filutzayrim pater. That really, if the split is also pater. Vakamashman. So what were you telling me over there by the paraschatas that you're pater only for work? There's dafilu malacha. It's coming to teach me. The chiddush was the opposite. The chiddush was that you're chayav b'din shemayim. Really, over there, you shouldn't even be chayav b'din shemayim. You shouldn't be responsible in heaven. You did so little of an action. Yeah. I have a question on this Gemara. The slit on the ear is the real action. But nevertheless, you're exempt. So why over there didn't tell me the slit on the ear? It wants to tell me a chiddush. Over there it told me that just if you do work with the animal or if you do work with the water, what about the slit on the ear? Yeah. It didn't say that. It must be that the slit on the ear, from that it thinks it's chayav. The Gemara says no. The reason why it didn't say it over there wanted to tell me a different chiddush. Wanted to tell me, I would think that you're so pater when you do work that even pater from heaven, you're pater. Kamashvalan that you're chayav in heaven. But the fact that you pater when you do work, that's we agree as well. Over here, it's telling me a chiddush that you chayav b'din shema. My question on this Gemara is that the Gemara earlier had a statement from Rabbi Yeshua that said 4 cases that someone is pater b'din yadam chayav b'din shemayim. The Gemara says you only have 4. You have other ones. One of them is this case of someone that does work with the mechatas and paraschatas. Why did Rabbi Yeshua only say 4? So Gemara answered that by saying that those cases wanted to tell me a chiddush that yechayev b'din shemayim. I would have thought that you pater b'din shemayim, but so that's why he only said those cases. But according to our Gemara here, I had this case also. There's a chiddush that yechayev b'din shemayim. Rabbi Yeshua should have said this one. I could have thought this one is also. Yeah. Have a pencil. What daf was that? Okay. So, V'amar Rabba. Yeah, Rabbah says, "Hasayr Shtari Shel Chaver Potter." We had this Gemara before. Someone burns his friend's document; he's exempt. The Amar Lei, he says, "Naira kaloi minach." Says, "I just burnt some paper. What do you want? You want me to pay for the paper? That's it. Just pay plain paper." You can say this today with dollar bills. Just burnt the paper. Shmatas. Burnt some shmatas. Well, Maskefla Rami Bar Chama. Rami Bar Chama has a question. It says, "Eichidami, what's going on over here? What's the case?" You see these documents. In the documents, it said that someone owed him money. It had all types of information in these documents that he could have used to collect. There's these were like gift cards or something. It had it meant something. If there were witnesses that knew what it said in that document, so let them write a new document. Say that we saw this document and we're writing a new one. And if we don't have witnesses, how do we know what's in it anyway? That the guy's going to charge him. The guy's going to say, "You know what? You just burnt. You burnt something significant." Yeah, I was at a Fabrengen one Shabbos. One of the guys got drunk, and he went to the mailbox and he tore the mail open, like not open. He tore like in half. It was on Shabbos. He was drunk. It's pater. Turned out that the mail that he destroyed, he was upset about something, I don't know. But the mail that he destroyed was $100,000 check from the government. It was a grant for the camp or something. The person had to apply again to get it again. It was like a disaster. Yeah. I don't know if you have to go through the whole process again, but the government had some some grants that they give for camps or schools or stuff. Anyway,
You couldn't tape it up. You couldn't tape the check.
I think he had to get they had to reissue it, but whatever.
It wasn't acceptable.
Anyway, so how do we know how much it was if it's totally here? It's burnt, not torn. There was torn. Amarava Tebe Rava says that the guy says, "I trust you. I know it was a big check. It was $100,000 check. I know that, but nevertheless, I'm not paying. I'm just paying for the paper. How much is paper?" So, but nevertheless, it's still less than the document. It's still less than the information. Amrav Dimi Bar Chanina had the Rabba Machlekes Reb Shimon v'Rabbanan. This statement that you just said is actually a Machlekes Reb Shimon and the Rabbanan, and we had Reb Shimon earlier. He says, Davar Agarim Lamam. It goes like this: Reb Shimon Davar Agarim Lamam and Kamam and Dame Mechayev. According to Reb Shimon's opinion was like this: if someone damaged a carbon from someone else, so if he was responsible for that carbon, he would have to replace it. Depends how the person pledged the carbon. But if he pledged it in a way that he would have to replace it if it got lost, says, "I'm accepting on myself." So then, even though the carbon was already a carbon, you can't say, "Well, so what? Who do I owe it to exactly?" But because the person has to replace it, then he would be higher because you caused it. Actually, what was the case? It was a case of someone that borrowed something. I don't remember exactly the case, but if you cause a loss of money because the person needs to replace it, then you're going to be chayiv. So Reb Shimon holds chayiv. The Rabbanan dami davar germ l'mam l'avkamami dami loy mechayiv. According to the Rabbanan that say that just causing something that causes remember where this was, where Reb Shimon was? Ayin Aleph, let's see. Ayin Aleph. Yeah. Yeah. It's talking about an ox that caused damage. If someone would have been able to return an ox that was supposed to be killed, if it would have been able to return, if he borrowed the ox, or if he would have been able to return it to the owner as is, and not have to replace it, so then that's considered like it had value. He could have returned it, even though the ox really doesn't have value, but because he would have been able to use it to return it, so he doesn't have to pay back his collateral or whatever the deposit was or whatever that is. Okay, so what's happening over here is that when you have a document, that document causes a loss of money, according to it causes a loss of money when it's lost. And this document could be used to get money, according to Reb Shimon, that's considered money. The document itself is considered money. It's considered like a damaged actual money. It's a check. But if it's but according to the Rabbanan that say no, just because it causes money doesn't mean that it's actually money. As a different type of value. The Gemara says, Maskifla Rav Huna Breder Rav Yeshua. Rav Huna Breder Rav Yeshua has a question on this. It's a later Amira. It's a student of Rabba Abaya. Maybe Reb Shimon only said it by something that actually has a real value originally. Like Rabba says, Dama Rabba. Rabba said, Gazel chametz lefnei Pesach. Someone steals chametz before Pesach. And someone comes and burns it at the time of burning the chametz. He just walks around town burning everyone's chametz. So the guy that stole it now, what's he going to give back? Someone burnt it. So he's pater. The person that burnt it is pater. Shakol mitzvah malav lavari, because at that point, what do you mean? I was burning your chametz. I was doing something good. But if it's la'achar Pesach, but if it's after Pesach, we're over there, it's not hakol mitzvah lavari, but they're slightly different. That's going to be machlekes Reb Shimon and Rabbanan. So machlekes Reb Shimon and the Rabbanan. Why? The Reb Shimon davar garim l'mammon k'mammon dami is chayev, because according to really you're allowed to return this chametz to the owner. That's the strange halacha. Someone steals chametz before Pesach, he can return it after Pesach, even though the person can't do anything with it. But he says, "Here's your item. Go ask your rabbi." So yeah, the box of cookies. So, but according to Reb Shimon, that says that could have been used to be returned for the theft, and it would exempt him now from buying new cookies for the guy. So it's considered like it has value. Now the guy came along and burnt it, so he destroyed what he was returning. He caused the damage. According to the Rabbanan, they hold that it's not considered actual value, the fact that he could have returned it. Then he's going to be pater. So, however, the main point that we're bringing out is but something that doesn't have an intrinsic value ever. It's just a piece of paper. Did Reb Shimon say that's also considered davar garim l'mammon? Maybe not. Maybe it's only davar garim l'mammon when it's something that causes something when it actually had a real value at one point. Amar Meimar says, "Man de doin dina de garmi magvi be demei shtar ma'alya." Someone accepts the laws of garmi. Garmi is slightly different than grama. This is a big sugya. Naftali, did you ever look into this? Garmi and grama? It's a big sugya. It's to the extent that some of the Rishonim say they don't know the difference. But certain causes, a causing of a damage, you're exempt. If someone leaves someone's door open because of that, if forgot to lock it, whatever, someone comes in and steals. He caused the damage, but he didn't do the damage. The guy that left the door open.
Oh.
Can't charge him. Can't charge him for leaving the door open, right? He didn't actually cause the damage. Not talking about the air conditioner broke because he left it open. That would be like more direct. But but here he left the door open and then someone broke in, someone stole. he left the ladder up to the bird cage, and an animal went up and ate the birds. So you can't make him pay. That's a grama. He caused the damage, but didn't actually do the damage. But then there's garmi. Garmi is a more direct. Like over here, when he burnt the document, he didn't actually burn his $100,000. He just burnt the document that says that you can collect $100,000.
Without
So-
which you cannot.
Without we wouldn't.
Yeah,
Right. So,
wow.
but someone that says that you're chayav for garmi, so then magri b'dmei shtar amalia, you can collect everything that's in that document. Mandalay doin dina de garmi, but if you don't hold of dina de garmi, then magri main niyara balma, then you can only collect the value of the paper. Haviyuvda, there was a story, a kafi rough from the Ravashi v'agbe kishura litzalma, that Ravashi apparently when he was a kid, he had burnt someone's document. It's like burning papers, and one of those documents was valuable, and Rafram said that Ravashi had to pay for it to the extent of like the price of a beam that's used to make a sculpture.
Oh,
I guess it means full price. That's okay. Next case. Chametz Rav Lava Pesach. The Mishnah we learned that if someone steals chametz and Pesach passes by, you can tell the owner, take your chametz back. There it is, and go enjoy. Ask your rabbi if you can eat it. Of course, the rabbi is going to say no, but look, it's the same, exactly what I took. So Mantana, who's the Tana that holds that you're allowed to do that when it comes to Isuri Hana? You're not allowed to benefit from the chametz, and here this guy is going in and using the chametz to return. Now, I don't know if the Gemara's question is it a problem for the thief to use Isuri Hana, and it's a problem, a ritual, the Gemara is asking that it's a question, a Hilchas Pesach question, that are you allowed to use this chametz? He's getting benefit now from this chametz, or it was the Gemara asking that it's a Chesed Mishpat question. How can something that has no usage be considered value and be returned? I think the Gemara is asking a Chesed Mishpat question, not a Hilchas Pesach question.
Worthless.
Because it's worthless. Not how could he now use chametz? He's getting benefit from the chametz. How could? I don't think that's what the Gemara is asking.
so it's like expired medicine. The expiration date, so it's not medicine anymore. You use it
No
back to you.
such thing. That's a scam.
No, yeah,
You think so? Here's the medicine you lent me, but
right.
so it's not medicine anymore.
Yes, I guess we're viewing this like expired medicine.
Yitzi says no such thing.
Yitzi says there's no such thing.
That's a scam. So it's just sell it. No, but let's say it was a potion that had like uranium. You know, it has it decays.
Right,
So here's your uranium back. Yeah, but it's decayed. It's a million years. It's just lead now.
right. That it turns into gold.
Gold, yeah. That's
No, doesn't gold come from the larger metals when they break down?
No, alchemists make.
Uh-huh.
I gave you Confederate money before the Confederate War, during the war, and then after the war, I'm giving you back your money. Here's the Confederate dollars.
Right.
Put on your wallpaper.
Okay, so who's the one that holds that you're allowed to use Isuri Hana and say Harish Lach Lefanecha? Rav Chizda Reb Yaakov here. Rav Chizda says it's Reb Yaakov. Rav Chizda is a contemporary of Rabba and Rav Chizda. We had him before. He's the father-in-law of Rabba. And he says that it's Reb Yaakov who's a Tana. It's going back the earlier generations. He says this opinion is Reb Yaakov. The Tanya was taught in a brisa. Shor shehemes. If an ox killed a man, what's the rule? They get stoned. It's called Shara Niskal, right? So actually, Nigmar Dina, before the court case is over, Machroi Macher. If he sells the ox, it's considered a sale. Ikdisha, if he consecrates it, makes it holy. It's mukdash. It actually becomes holy because the verdict wasn't passed in the court yet. Shachtai, if he shechts it, sorry, mutter can actually eat it until the verdict. Let's say this was a watchman that returned it to the owner. That's considered muhsar. He's returned it, gave it back quickly. He doesn't have to pay for it now. But once the verdict is over, then if it's sold, it's not sold. If he consecrates it, it's not considered consecrated. If he shechs it, it's considered prohibited to eat. What happens if the watchman returns it to the owner? Eina muhsar is not considered returned. That's the opinion of the Tanna Kamma. Rabbi Yaakov says, Rabbi Yaakov says that even if he returns it, it's considered returned. Aha. So my love, is it not that this is what they're arguing about? Rabbi Yaakov holds that we say with Isuriana that here it is before you. Rabbanan Savi, the sages say, that you can't say that. You can't say here it is, just take it back. So this discussion over here about if you're allowed to return chametz is really a machlekes Rabbi Yaakov and the sages, exactly the same machlekes regarding the yaks that killed, and then the watchman that killed in his possession just returns it quickly to the owner and says, here, take it back. Remember that story with the guy by the Fabrengen?
Yep.
He owed $10,000. He brought it to the Fabrengen, and he said, I'll see you at the Fabrengen, you'll give it back to me over there. And the Rebbe at the Fabrengen said that everyone should empty their pockets and give it everything that they have to tzedakah. So he quickly took the money and gave it to his friend. Here. That's what's going on.
Famous.
So here we have Isuri Hana. It's not Isuri Hana, but there was a mitzvah. There it's Isuri Hana. It's prohibited to use. He's handing it back right away, quickly, before it gets killed. And he's saying, here, I returned it. Amalei Rabba says to Rav Chisda, Loi, you're making a mistake. You found an opinion of Rabbi Yaakov, and you're claiming that Rabbi Yaakov is of the opinion that holds that you're allowed to return items when they're Isuri Hana. Says that's not what's really going on. The truth is that really the Rabbanan hold the same like Rabbi Yaakov. It's not just Rabbi Yaakov. And really our Mishnah is not the opinion of Rabbi Yaakov. Our opinion is the opinion of the Rabbanan, our Mishnah. That says that you're allowed to return chametz after Pesach. Dimkain, because if so, why were they only arguing about an ox? Niflagu b'chametz for Pesach. Why don't they argue about chametz? Ela Marabba, rather Rabba says, they actually, in other words, in our Mishnah, we didn't see a Rabbi Yaakov, we didn't see a Rabbanan. We just said chametz shavar of a Pesach, chametz that Pesach passes by, you're allowed to return it. We didn't see any opinions. Why is there no arguments over there? The answer is because they're actually not arguing about this. Everyone agrees that you're allowed to return the chametz. Over here, it's a different machlekes. But here the question is, are you allowed to do the judgment on the ox when the ox isn't there? Rabbanan Savri, the Rabbanan, you have to take a look what's going on over here. The ox killed a man when it was in the possession of the watchman. After the verdict, he wants to return it back to the owner. The owner says, if you would have given it back to me beforehand, I would have not allowed the court to confiscate it. I would have done something, and then they wouldn't have been able to do the judgment.
Put it in the swamp.
I would have put it in the swamp. Swamp walk. So, Rabbanan Savri ain goimrin dina shel shar shlei b'fanav. The Rabbanan hold that you can't do the judgment on the ox unless the ox is there. Damarle, and therefore the owner tells to the watchman, "Ei say nale. If you would have brought it to me, avim mariknei lagma, I would have put it in the swamp." Ashta masar to be admad lemitzin l'shtoi dinamade, but you gave it over to the court. It's all your fault. Yaakov says, no, you don't need the ox to be in the court when they do the case. So therefore, Darmalei, my avdilei, what did I do? Safe. They anyways would have done the judgment. So for Rabbi Yaakov says he could return it now, and it's not considered like he caused the damage. The Rabbanan say it is considered like he caused the damage because the owner can tell him, yeah, I want a different ox. Because of you, you caused this ox to be lost. Yeah. It's as if you killed it with your own hands by giving it to the court. Well, Ashkechei Rav Chisda l'Rabba Bar Shmuel. Rav Chisda, we had a machlekes over here, Rav Chisda and Rabba, discussing which opinion it was that Chamesh Shavrel of a Pesach, you're allowed to say Harish Lach Lefanecha, you're allowed to say here it is before you and just return it. By Chamesh. Yeah. So Rav Chisda says it's only the opinion of Rabbi Yaakov, and Rabba said it's even the opinion of the Rabbanan. Anyway, Rav Chisda finds Rabba Bar Shmuel, a different Rabba. The other Rabba was Rabba Bar Nachmani. Finds Rabba Bar Shmuel. Amalei Tanas Midi B'Sirah. Now, have you learned anything about items that are prohibited that benefit from Amalei? Says, yeah, I know some things about that. Tanina, I have a Mishnah. Over here, maybe a Brisa. Beishav Esagzela. Says you have to return the stolen item. Why does it say that you stole? It says Yachse Ken Shagazal, you have to return similar to the way it was stolen. Here they said Gazal Matbe'ev and Ifsal. If someone stole a coin and it went became out of circulation, here's Verkivo, or fruits that went rotten, Yayin Vehechmetz, or wine that became vinegar, Chuma Venitmis, or Chuma that became tummy. Chametz Vavra Lava Pesach, and Chametz. An animal that a sin was done with it, therefore needs to be killed. Or an ox before the judgment. That's the main point. Before the judgment, he's allowed to say, here it is before you. Who's the opinion that holds? Only before the judgment you're allowed to say that. But once the judgment was done, the answer is no. That's the Rabbanan. That's the opinion of the Rabbanan. So we see very clearly that the Rabbanan are the ones that say chametz v'avril of a Pesach. You're allowed to say Reish Lach Lefanecha. Clear raya against Rav Chisda.
Yeah. Did we learn that someone who steals something is koine?
If he changes it, over here it's not considered a change.
But if he's koine it,
then he would have to return the value.
Yeah, you can do what you want with something you've acquired.
Right.
Right.
Right. So we asked the question, what's the difference between if someone steals an esrog for Sukkot and returns it after Sukkot?
Thanks a lot.
And someone steals chametz before Pesach and returns it after Pesach. Both of them, the value just went down.
Well,
let's say someone stole a bottle of whiskey, an expensive bottle of whiskey, cost a few $100s before Pesach, and it was at a Fabrengen, and he snuck it out in his pocket. And after Pesach, he feels bad. He says, I'm going to give it back to him. He gives it back. The guys are from guys. No, it's not going to drink it now. Or he takes his esrog before Sukkot. It was worth a few $100s. And after Sukkot, he says, here, I'm sorry, I took the esrog. Okay, you can have it back. Spiesen. Yeah, take it back. So what's the difference? One of them, by chametz, he's allowed to hand it back. By the whiskey, he can hand it back. By the esrog, he can't give it back. He has to pay the value. The difference is that one of them is a ritual halacha that's stopping him from using it, but in the market, it actually has a value. So the market value is changed by the esrog, but the market value did not change on the whiskey. It's just a ritual law that's stopping him from drinking it. That's the difference that we said.
So that's the Irish.
If he steals a kid, kidnaps him, and he keeps him for 20 years, says here's your kid back. He's 30 years old now.
Oh,
It's kidnapping.
Yeah.
It's the same kid.
Right.
Wait a minute, he stole a child. He raised him. Oh, but there's a shinui, there's a change.
Yeah, he gets it when he gets older to pay his original price.
It's a gypsy thing. Gypsy steals.
time around you.
Oh, yeah.
No, I mean, if, let's say a gypsy steals a Jewish kid, and he returns him,
Uh-huh.
the kid is a gypsy.
Right.
He's been raised as a gypsy, and
Right.
he's told he's a Jew.
Oh, you're
Oh,
so
yeah.
lucky.
Okay. So Rav Chisda says to Rabbi Bar Shmuel, he says, "Amalei mishkachas lu leitem lu v'leimidi." He says, "Don't sell this to the other sages; they're going to laugh at me that I got it all wrong." So because this was a proof against Rav Chisda, because according to this, even the Rabbanan would agree that you're allowed to return the chametz. Yeah, this Rav Naftali, there was a sefer called Mishmeres Chaim.
Right.
Mishmeres Chaim was Rabbi Chaim Pinchas Scheinberg. Familiar with him?
He has 2 volumes. He has the new
Remember,
volume and the old volume.
remember All for the Boss? Remember that book? All
Yes.
for the
Yes.
Boss.
Yes.
One of the daughters married, but one of Nechama Shane's brother-in-law was Chaim Pinchas Scheinberg, Rabbi Chaim Pinchas Scheinberg. Anyway, he was Rosh Hashiva in Eretz Yisrael, I think, called I forgot the name of it. But anyway, he wrote these nice, like short questions and answers, the questions that you could think about, like, try to come up with the answer on your own. So one of these questions was this, the difference between between the esrog and the chametz. Like the Gemara, he would ask his students, like, try to get them to think. He had another question that if it's hider mitzvah to have a nice talus, Rashi says earlier that to have a nice talus because you hang the tzitzis on it. How come we don't say it's hider mitzvah to have a nice house because you hang the mezuzah on it?
Whoa.
Yeah, and then he wants you to think, like, what's the difference in talus and the
Talus, how's that? What's the comparison? Talus is.
so the talus is, it's good to have a nice talus even though the mitzvah is the tzitzis. But
I thought it was a mitzvah.
yeah, but the tzitzis, the strings that are on the talus is the mitzvah. The strings that are on the talus.
They argue about that talus stuff in Shemaim. Soul.
What is that?
They're arguing about the soul.
Oh, the soul. I hear you. Is the real mitzvah. So maybe on the house.
Steinberg?
Yeah. Mishmeres Chaim was the name of the sefer.
Rav Naftali learned by him.
I think it was called Torah. Was the name of the yeshiva. Yeah. Anyway, he has other books that are very complicated, the Tabas HaCheshen, but this was just one that was like nice and easy. Okay, Peirus V'Kivu Amar Lo Harish Lach Lefanecha. Fruits that got rotten, you could return them and just say, here it is before you. Can you really do that? But Tanan, we have a Mishnah that says Peirus V'Kimashal Chasak Zela. We said exactly the opposite, that you can't do that. Rav Papa says country kiva kul and country kiva miktasan. Depends how much rotted.
You asking could
No.
you make fruits rotted?
No, can you really
I'm
return
sure
it?
in your house you never had a run.
We have compost.
Fast.
So at what point it doesn't tell me. At which point are you not allowed to return it? Which point are you allowed to? The Gemara doesn't say over here. Do you have any comment on yours? When, like, at which point? How much rotted it is becomes prohibited to return. Okay.
Wait a minute, so there are cases where they return the rotten fruit. They said that makes a kind of a compost that's just medicinal. You return something of greater value, and you thought it was just rotten, no good.
I don't think it's ever like that. Is there ever a thing that compost is more expensive than the original? Yeah, by animal manure. Yeah, but not by fruits. Right. Okay. Nasan la'omnen l'sakein b'kilkalei. We have a new topic over here, although we mentioned it in passing. But if someone gives something to a craftsman and the craftsman messed it up, so the rule is chayav and l'shalom, he has to pay. How else would we view this? Oh, we didn't say what exactly he has to pay. What does he have to pay? Does he have to pay for the material? Or does he have to pay for what exactly? Okay, let's take a look. Let's go further. Nasan l'charash, probably. Shida Teva Migdal, someone gave to a carpenter a type of box which was used for people to ride on, women, I think, to ride in. It was like a wagon, or a box, or a closet, a chest. Lasakin Bekilkil, and he messed it up. Chayav L'Shalom, he has to pay for it. Abanoi, a builder. Shakibal of Lister Sakaisel. He accepted on himself to destroy a wall. But he broke the stones of the wall. He was just supposed to dismantle the wall. They ended up breaking the stones, or he caused damage to them. Chayav L'Shalom, he has to pay for them. Let's say he was breaking one side and the other side fell. Spotter is exempt. But if it was because of the banging that weakened it, so then he's going to be chayav. What did they claim in Surfside? It was damage caused by a neighboring construction. Is that what they said?
I'm sure every insurance company points to different.
Yeah. Amar Ravasi. Ravasi says Ravasi is really a second generation Amira, like a student of Rav. That's only because the reason why our Mishnah says this is because the carpenter was not supposed to be building something. He was just supposed to be banging a nail in. And when he banged the nail in and he broke it, so he has to pay because he just did a regular damage. But what Rasi is really saying is Nasan Lacharish Eitzim, Lasi Shida Teva Migdal Vasram Shida Teva Migdal Shivranis Pater. Let's say you gave him wood to make a box,
Right.
And the guy makes the box and he breaks it, so he's exempt from paying for it. Now the question here is like this: while he's working on it, there's improvements that are going on. So the original owner said, "When exactly did it break?" He says, "Well, it broke, and at the very end, when I was painting it, I dropped it. And when I was," he said, "Oh, so it was already a box, so it's worth much more than the wood. So actually, you broke the item that was mine." That was already a box. The wood cost me $50. The box was $150. You broke pay me $150 because it was already almost done, right? 130. So, but Ravasi says no. That's not how it works. But he only has to pay him for the wood. He doesn't have to pay him for the box. Pater, my timer, he says that the craftsman owns all the improvements, and what really happens is he sells them the new item. He's not working on his item. The craftsman owns the item, and then he sells that to him.
Will this always be a question of who owns it
Yeah.
and at what time ownership transfers? Yeah.
Right. But there's two ways of looking at the craftsman. You could view it that he's working on his item, he never owns it, or you could view it that he actually acquires he acquires the actual item until he gives it back to him.
Yeah.
The Gemara is going to bring this up regarding when it comes to payment, a worker of yours, you're not allowed to let the night pass without paying him. Like selling, right? You can't delay payment. But if you're purchasing, you don't have to pay right away. So the craftsman, that's going to be a difference in halacha, a very interesting difference. So here we're saying when it breaks, is there a difference in how much he has to pay? But there's other halachas that come up from the same concept.
So if you give the craftsman like different pieces to build something, right. Those pieces, let's say he makes something that is not what you wanted, he has to pay you for the value of those pieces. Yeah.
Right.
That's what we were saying.
Yeah.
Tell him to make a menorah, and he makes that he makes the rumba menorah. Makes the tightest menorah.
Tznan. Nasan le'umnin v'kilkalei. If someone gives something to a craftsman and he messes it up, chayav l'shalom, he has to pay. That's the beginning of our Mishnah. The Gemara says, "Akasha on Rabasi, my love, diav lo eitzim." He probably gave him wood, and he has to pay him. You told me that he doesn't have to pay him, and now the Mishnah is saying that he has to pay for the improvements for the new item. Gemara says, "Lo, that's not what happened. Shida Teva Migdal, he gave him a box that was already made, and he just wanted him to bang in a nail into it, and that's when he broke it. That's why he has to pay for it. says, "Ha midiktani sefer shida teva migdal machal dereisha eitzim." But that case was already said in the later part of the Mishnah. So probably the first part of the Mishnah was not that. The first part of the Mishnah was a case where he gave him wood and he turned it into a box. And he says he still has to pay. It's kasha and ravasi. Amri, the Gemara says, "Prusha kama farishla." The two parts of the Mishnah are not two separate cases. The second part of the Mishnah is just explaining the first part of the Mishnah. It goes like this. What's the case where someone gives something to a craftsman and he breaks it, he has to pay? What's the case of that? To go in, for example, he gave him a box. It also makes sense to say this. The case at Ketani, that's referring to how, like what would the case be? Because if the first case would be talking about that he gave him wood and he made from scratch a brand new box. If over there, when he gave him the wood, he has to pay for the box. We don't say that he acquires the improvements. We say that it belongs to the original owner. So why wouldn't I need the second case? Obviously, it's explaining. I wouldn't have needed the second case. The Gemara says, if you think that's a real proof, why would I have needed the second case? It's not a proof at all. Don't grab onto that. Because Tana Seifa Ligli Reisha. It could be that the second case is just telling me what the first case is. Don't say that it's the Reisha is talking about a box, but not wood. So Tana Seifa maybe it's exactly telling me that. Maybe it's telling me the second case in order to recognize that the first case was different. Anyway, we're not proving anything from this, but we're saying you can't disprove. Because it could be that what it's really doing is it's telling me that they're two separate cases instead of telling me that it's one case. Let's bring a proof to Ravasi that says that the craftsman acquires the improvements of the item and then the owner purchases it from him. It says like this: someone gives wool to a dyer, and it gets burnt in the vat. Recently, the mate Samra, he has to pay him for the wool. 1 second. While it was cooking, it improved. They would cook it. They would cook the wool in the dye, in the color. While it was cooking, it improved, and then it put it in too long. It got burnt. So, how come it doesn't say it says the mate Samarian, he only has to pay for the wool. The mate Samar Shvachilai, but he doesn't have to pay for the improvements. But when it got ruined, it was worth more. Remember the Alter Rebbe Streimel or something went into the oven and he left it there too long. Remember that? Yeah, I forget the end of the story, but there was something the guy that made the Streimel. Yeah. Someone wanted to make the Alter Rebbe Streimel or something, and he ruined it. Remember there was a chassid that offered to cut. I forget which Rebbe it was. He was very careful. He wanted to get wool from Eretz Yisrael to make tzitzis. And a chassid went to Eretz Yisrael, came back, brought him the garment of tzitzis. And the chassid said, "I want to cut the hole." He cut the hole, but it was folded over. And when you opened it up, it actually had 2 holes. And so he brought it to the Rebbe. He said, "So sorry, I messed up. I know you were waiting so long." And the Rebbe said, "1 hole is for my head. The other hole is to see if I'm going to lose my head and get angry at you." Yeah, that was in Rabbi Zevin's book. You know, the tales, Hasidic tales.
What happens when this is, I guess, quite common. You pay someone for a service, and they do the service, but the customer's not happy with the service.
Right.
Do you still have to pay, or can you get your money back?
Well, that would depend. Well, at least from simply without all complications that come up. Simply, it depends on what the person asked for. You asked me to make it black, I made it black. No, but I wanted it to come to black. You didn't tell me that. Pay me for what I did.
That's why they have lawyers. So
Yeah.
Sometimes it's, yeah.
for the court.
Over here, we had a case before, which is going to come up later. He tells him to make it black, and he made it red. And then there's a discussion. What does he have to? He did improve it. He improved it, right? Okay, so over here, it's going to come up. It seems like he doesn't have to pay for the improvements. Probably it got burnt after it was in, and that Dika Shvacha was already improved. Gemara answers Shmamino, and the Gemara Shmamino, we see from this that that it wasn't belonging to the original owner, it was belonging to the craftsman, and that's why he doesn't have to pay for those improvements. It would only become the original owner's after he sells it to him. But over here, it belonged to the craftsman. So when the craftsman ruined it, he only has to pay for the original wool, for the material. Amar Shmuel, Hachamayaskin, and Shmuel says it's not a proof because what we're dealing with over here. The leka shvacha, it got burnt before it became improved, before the dye took effect. But what would be afterwards? Nicely, the mate Samar Shvacha would have to pay for the improvement and for the wool, according to Shmuel. Gemara says, "Lema Shmuel, let's say the Ravasi." It comes out that Shmuel isn't going to hold like a Ravasi, which would mean that the work craftsman does not acquire the improvements, and the halacha would be like Shmuel, because the halacha is like Shmuel Bedini. Amalach Shmuel could say to you, it's not necessarily so, because over here we were dealing with that the ink, not the ink, the dye, the color, and the wool belong to the original owner. Vitzava, and the guy that's just doing the work, Agayadi the Shakal, he's just a laborer, he's not a craftsman. He's just like the guy that's to turn on the fire. It doesn't mean he's
skilled craftsman, master craftsman.
When my wife tells me to turn on the fire on the stove, the soup, it doesn't mean I know how to cook.
Come on.
I didn't make the soup. I'm just eating it up.
Robbie Smith once made beer that was so good that a restaurant wanted it.
Oh yeah, I told you that. So Agayadi the Shakal. If that's the case, so then you have a problem with that, because it says he only has to pay for the wool. If the case is where the original owner gave him the wool and the dye, then why does he have to only pay for the wool? He should have to pay for the dye as well. Someone would mean like the herbs that make the dye. Shmuel didn't really mean that he's arguing on Ravasi. He was just telling Ravasi that it's not necessarily a proof. Okay, Tashima. So come in here. Anaisin talisei leuman. Someone gives his garment to a craftsman. Gomrai, the craftsman finishes it. Vaidia, he lets him know your garment is done. Even from now until 10 days. He doesn't violate the rule of delaying payment. You have to pay, so you have to pay really, I think before dark, you're supposed to pay, right? For a worker. Yeah. My wife was babysitting someone, and the guy liked to pay like before ski would show up, before ski to make sure a Litvish guy make sure that he got the payment in like before Anyway, one time it was like rushing. I said, "Oh, don't worry about it." He said, "Oh, you messed it up. Now if I pay you back, maybe I didn't even do the mitzvah because you were meichelet. I didn't want you to say don't worry about it. I want." Yeah.
High level.
Okay. So yeah, it is a high level. So okay. Let's say he returned the garment that the craftsman finished midday. Once it becomes sunset, he violates Baltalan. You're not allowed to delay payment to the worker. If you were going to accept Ravasi's rule, that really the worker acquires the improvements. So then, this is just a regular sale. Someone goes to the store and they give him on credit. He has to pay for it. It doesn't mean he has to come before nightfall. He can pay later as well. It's only the worker that he has to pay before nightfall. But if this is a purchase, he doesn't have to pay exactly on that day. A regular purchase, he doesn't have to pay that day. So Amar Rav Mari Breder of Kana begarda the sarbala leka shvacha. We're not talking about a craftsman over here. We're talking about a launderer. There is no improvement. It's just a laundry, and it's a worker, and that's why you have to pay him. But he doesn't acquire anything in this. He says, safe. Why do you give it to him if there's no improvement? He wants him to soften it up. Apparently, when they would wash it, it would get softer. Probably like the old clothing would get stiff with the sweat or something. And then he would wash it, it would get softer. Given the when it gets soft, that it's considered an improvement. He hired him as a worker, not to soften it up. He hired him just to trample on it. He would put it in the water and he would step on it. And he pays him bitcha b'masa. Every step that he takes, he gets a ma. This is the way you would pay kids, not the way you pay adults. That's the way, if you do this like every, what is that? Is that a laundry?
The Roman fresco of adults and children.
Oh, wow.
Whoa. Which spin is that? It's probably
In the corner, there's a picture of kids stepping on laundry. Okay.
You run a marathon, they pay them according to how many steps they take, how much time they run.
Yeah.
That's if you get scammed.
Sponsor somebody to run.
Who's the artist who drew a picture of kids?
So what we're talking about now is that he's just a worker, and that's why there's an issue of leisalan, baltalan, that he can't delay payment. But it's not because he acquires anything here. He's just getting paid per step on it. Remember the guy that asked the Rav? He said wants to bench Gaimel. Said because he saw his wife washing his pants by the river. They would beat it with a stick. He wants to bench Gaimel that he wasn't wearing it while she was washing it. If he was wearing it, he would have been dead. So okay. The way we understood originally, where he didn't hire him to step on it, he hired him to wash it. This would be a support for Rav Sheshes. It would have been if we learned it differently. Because Rav Sheshes had a question, or maybe they asked Rav Sheshes a question. They asked Rav Sheshes a question. See, there's different types of workers. There's a worker that as a day laborer. Every day he gets paid for that day's work. And then there's a guy that gets what do you call it? He has a job. He has to do a project. He gets paid when the project is done. Doesn't get paid. Contractor. He doesn't get paid by the day. He gets paid by the project. So when someone finishes the project, do you have an obligation to pay him before nightfall when he finishes the project? Or maybe it's only by a day labor. Rav Sheshes said over. Lema the Rav Sheshes pliga the Ravasi would come out that Rav Sheshes would argue on Ravasi because according to Rav Asi, when someone has a contractor, someone has a project, he's supposed to be building something. There's never going to be a prohibition of baltalan because he acquires it and then you just purchase it from him. Okay. Amar Shmuel bar Acha b'shlicha di garta says no. This that Reb Sheshes says that Yerayver was not talking about someone that had a project that would acquire the improvements. His project was to bring the letter from one place to another place. There's no improvement in the letter. It's a project. Yeah. Did you deliver it? I'm not paying you for the day. I'm paying you for the project, but there's no improvements in the item. So that's why we won't argue on Ravasi. According to Ravasi, you won't violate Baltalan. Normally, when there's improvement. According to Rav Sheshes, you also won't violate Baltalan when there's improvement. It was only in a case where it was bringing a letter. Over there, it's going to violate the rules of delaying payment. Let's say that this is really a machlekes tanoim. Aseli shirim nizamim v'tabayis v'kadishlach. If a girl tells a man, says, make me bracelets, rings, nose rings, or I don't know, nizamim. Is it earrings or nose rings, and other rings, and I'll become married to you. Kivan Chasa, once the guy makes it, Mikudesh, she's married.
Mazel tov.
Meir.
Mazel tov.
She's betrothed. I'm sorry?
Phoenix.
What is Phoenix? Oh, the wedding. Are you going? Oh, wow. I don't have anyone to do the shir on Tuesday and Wednesday.
You going to?
You go to-
You're not going to be here. Ramesh is not here. You're not
Where are
going
you
to be
going
here.
to?
I'm going.
Oh, all the way
Yeah.
to-
Are you going to? You may have to do the shir.
I was gonna go.
Huh?
Now you're gonna. Now you have to go. Also.
Shalom. You want to give the shir? Oh, you're going. Shalom's going.
Sure, go on.
Could have given the shir.
Yosef.
You going? I was just, no.
So I need.
I wish it.
Can you give the share
Yes.
Tuesday, Wednesday?
Woo!
I'll see what we're up to tomorrow, and then I'll have
The
to
answer
prepare.
is it's not gonna be good.
Don't matter, baby.
Nevertheless,
Don't
you do your
matter.
best.
Don't
That's what-
matter,
that's
baby.
what we all do.
Shmaim's gonna be smiling.
Jonathan.
Smile.
It's gonna be reading.
Okay, read, baby. Go for it.
Okay. Given Shasa Mikudeh Dibra Meir, v'chachamim ma'imrim.
Stand up.
The guys will give you some tips how to prepare or whatever.
That's Dr. Stein.
Yeah.
Let's get
Take a
back
lot
to
of pictures.
getting back to the Gemara.
Back to the Gemara. Chachamim ma'imrim. The sages say, "Eina mekadesh asad shegiya mammon liyada." She's not married until the money reaches her hands. My mammon. Which money are we talking about? Ile ma'isa mammon. Are we talking about this money itself? Mechlal de Rameir savraisa mammon lai. That would mean that Rameir holds that this money doesn't need to reach her. But my Makacha say, how does she get married? Ela pshita, it must be my mammon acher. It must be that there's other money here. The Savrua, and everyone holds. We'll go back in a second. Savrua, the kuli almi yeshin l'schiris mitchilavat say. It was a problem with a craftsman doing something and that being not considered a marriage, because if the craftsman, if the payment, if the obligation to pay the craftsman is only at the very end, then no, if the payment is only at the very end, then when he forgives her of the payment, he's actually giving her money. You owe me money. Well, there's like, it's sort of like a purchase right now. Instead of you paying me, I'm going to marry you. But if there's the obligation to pay, it goes all along throughout the entire time, that every moment that he does a little bit of work, she's actually owing money. So really she's accruing a debt. And when he says, you don't have to pay me, what he's really doing is forgiving a debt that she had throughout the whole time. And we have a rule with the kuli alma makadesh b'milvein mekadeshes. And everyone holds that if a man tells a woman that you don't have to pay me back the debt, and with that money that I'm now forgiving you, you're going to be married to me, it doesn't work. So what's going on over here? My love, must be that we're talking about, does he acquire the improvements? Rameir holds that she's married. That's because he acquires the improvements when he gives her the item. So he's actually giving her something that was his. So she's getting married she gave him the material. She gave him the gold, and he's making it into an earring. So he acquires it, and now he gives it to her. The Rabbanan hold it was always hers, and it's just the debt over here that she owes, and so therefore she's not married. Says Loi, that's not what's going on. Everyone holds that the craftsman does not acquire it. It always belonged to her. So how does she get married according to Rav Meir? The question is, do we say that when this guy is being hired, that it starts at the beginning and it accrues a debt as it goes on? Rav Meir holds that it doesn't accrue the whole time. It's only at the very end that she owes the money. She owes the money at the very end. So he says, you don't have to pay me. He's actually giving her money. And that's why she's married. Rabbanan Sabri, the Rabbanan hold, yes, he says no. Rabbanan say that she's accruing a debt the whole time. And when he says, you don't have to pay me, he's actually marrying her by forgiving a debt. And the rule is that you can't get married by forgiving a debt. Must be actually an exchange of money. We can say this a little different. Everyone holds that she's accruing a debt. And really, there's a machlekes about if you can get married with forgiving a debt. The Rameir Savra Mekadosh Milva Mekudeshes. Rameir holds that she is married. Rabbanan Savra Mekadosh Milva Eina Mekudesh. The Rabbanan say that she's not married. That was the Gemara that we learned in Kedushin. Rava Amar, Rava says, the Kuli Alma, everyone holds, everyone holds that she's accruing a debt as the guy is working. And everyone holds also that she can't get married by forgiving a debt. And everyone holds that he doesn't acquire it. So how in the world does Rav Meir say that she's married? We just like X'd out all our possibilities. He added one little, what did they translate that? One jewel. He added one jewel into the earring that he made. It was a classy design, plus there was a little jewel that he added in. So, like, it could be like a ribbon, or something, like some little thing, a trinket that got added into this. Rameir Savar Milva Pruta Daita Pruta. Rameir holds that if there's a debt plus a little coin that she's getting, what's her intention? He's forgiving the debt that she owes him for doing the work. But he also added in 1 penny of value into this. So what is she thinking about when she's accepting it? Is she agreeing to the marriage because he forgave the debt, which was a lot of money? Or is she agreeing to the marriage because of that small coin that she's getting, which that would be unacceptable for a regular marriage? So Milva Pruta, Daita Pruta, Rameir holds that she's thinking about the extra money that she's getting, not the forgiving of the debt, and therefore she's married. Rabbanan Sabri Milva Pruta, Daita Milva, that she's really thinking about, she's accepting the marriage offer because of the debt that he's forgiving, and that doesn't work. This is similar to the reason why we don't use a ring that has a jewel in it, because it could be when the girl sees the ring with the jewel in it, she's not thinking about the ring, she's thinking about the jewel. And she thinks that the jewel is actually a diamond. It turns out that it was zinc, what's it called? Zirconium, or whatever that thing.
Cubic zirconia.
Cubic zirconium. So she wasn't thinking about the ring. She was thinking about that. So the whole marriage didn't work because it wasn't really the value that she thought it was. But the ring itself, that usually doesn't change much in value. It's just the band. That's why we only use a band. So here, Reb Meir holds no. She's thinking about that extra thing that he's given, that he's adding into it. So that's why she's married. And the Rabbanan say no. She's only thinking about the wrong thing, and that's why she's not married. But look at Dani Tanai, and this would follow the following Tanoim. The Tanya thought in a brisa. The guy tells the girl, "Marry me for the and I'll forgive the payment of the work that I did for you." It doesn't work. I'll do work for you. That's mikudeshes. That will work. Rab Natsan nightmare. Even if he says the work that I will do for you doesn't work. Now the reason for that would be because she's accruing a debt as the work is going on, and then at the end he says you don't have to pay me. He's just forgiving a debt, and Reb Nassim would hold that forgiving a debt doesn't work. For sure, the work that I did for you, that's for sure forgiving a debt. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi says, in truth, they said, never says Bema Summer, that means that's the halacha. Whether it's the work that I did for you, whether it's the work that I will do for you, she's not married. But if he adds a little jewel, okay. Now the Gemara says, what's the real difference between the Tanakama and Reb Nassan? Reb Nassan says, even if he says in the future it doesn't work, and the Tanakama says only the past doesn't work, the future does work. It says, Ikabenayo schiras, the schiras. How do we look at hiring him do we look at it that she's accruing debt the whole time, or do we view that it's only at the end where the obligation to pay is? Being Rav Nassim and Rabbi Yehuda Anasi, what's the difference between Rav Nassim and Rabbi Yehuda Anasi? It can be nayo milva pruta. The difference is if it's a milva pruta, if he's forgiving a debt plus adding one thing. According to Rabbi Yehuda Anasi, that's going to work, and according to Rav Nassim, we say that it's not going to work. Yeah. Let's leave it over here.
Cater at the weddings.
As long as it's about.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
The delay, Ramesha, they're taking what's going on with your plane.
Yeah, what's going on?
Taking over in a few minutes.
Okay.
All good.
Okay, very nice. Okay.